Pakistan, like many other third world countries, had, because of the infusion of aid, Pakistan is a country which is heavily aid dependent. It has done well. I mean, very quickly in the 60s, it had a very high growth rate, and as mentioned, that the post-independence, the GDP was much better than us, the per capita GDP. But if you look at the decadal growth of Pakistan, 60s, very high growth rate, 70s, again, a crisis because Bhutto's regime was not a regime which was liked by the Americans. All aid was cut off. 80s, the aid restarts because of the Afghan war. So in the GIA period, again, you have high growth rates. When the aid was withdrawn at the end of 1989, when the Soviets left, Pakistan's economic crisis began from that period. Without the aid, the growth rate plummeted. You had a serious fiscal crisis and a foreign exchange crisis. So the notion of a welfare state, which is very, very important for third world countries, where the people have to see the state as a provider, which is able to look after the social sector needs. And this is where the Pakistan state collapses. Some of the figures that one can see after 1989, when, due to the economic crisis, where it had to accept the structural adjustment programs prescribed by the IMF and World Bank, it had to reduce public expenditure on social development, which led to an increase in poverty and unemployment. In 1981, the development expenditure in Pakistan was 9.3% of its budget. And by 1996-97, it has dropped to about 3.5%. In the 90s, it's spending less than 1% on health and less than 2.5% on education. The growth rate has come down. I mean, it has, even in the 80s, it had a high growth rate, according to third world standards, 6.3%. In the 1990s, it's come down to less than 5, somewhere around 4.2%. And today, I think in the last quarter, the growth rate has only been about 2.4%. Now, that's not sufficient to take care of the huge youth bulge that Pakistan has. Pakistan, like India, has a large number of population within the 20 to 30 age group. It has a serious crisis because it cannot create the job opportunities because of the growth rate that it's not able to increase. Now, the impression that one has is, even then, there is a large amount of circulation of money in the Pakistan economy. Post 9/11, all of a sudden, there was a huge infusion of currency into the Pakistan economy. There are some reasons for that, why that's happened, and even today, I think the State Bank of Pakistan, in one of its reports, has said that 30% of the Pakistan economy is black economy. There is a huge amount of circulation of currency in the Pakistan economy. It's a strange situation where the state is bankrupt. People have the money. Anecdotally, some of the things that I've been reading in the recent past, car sales have been going up in Pakistan. Out of that, 12% of car sales were in the high-end market. People bought about 12,000 people bought a car which cost about 15 lakh rupees by paying cash. And the economy allows that. There was a time when the economy, you couldn't transact without something called tax number where where you have to have a number which something like a PAN number. They called it a NTN. If you don't have an NTN, you couldn't do a transaction. But it's been removed. That you can go and buy a car for 15 lakhs by paying cash and no one asks you questions. Where did that money come from? So these are some of the contradictions of the economy, the infusion of cash into the economy, which if you go to Pakistan today, I was there in Lahore in September, you don't find much difference. I mean, you can't make out that this is a country in crisis. You go around the streets and the markets, you won't get the impression that there is anything seriously wrong with this economy. It's a highly consumerist society. The markets are thriving. But there are serious questions about the nature of the economy, which is so dependent on aid that unless and until there is further infusion of aid into the economy, it can collapse. There is today talk going on, and I think right now the Pakistan government is negotiating with the IMF because it has to refurbish a loan of $11 billion that it has taken from the IMF, and they have to start repaying it from next year. How does this economy repay $11 billion unless and until it takes another loan from the IMF? And right now they're negotiating for that. We don't know to what extent the Americans will cut down on the aid that they've been giving. What we know is almost $20 billion have come into the economy since the start of the war on the war on terrorism. They have reduced that aid. What they were supposed to, after Obama came into power, according to the Kerry-Lugar bill, they're supposed to give them $1.5 billion every year, which they've cut down. They've only received $800 million. And also the Americans have become a little clever in trying to see that how this aid reaches or is utilized for social development and does not go into the so-called anti-terrorist operations, which the Pakistani army has been very cleverly been able to manipulate to use that aid for building up its own forces. There are other issues with the Pakistan economy which are critical. One, which a lot of you must be knowing, that there is great shortages in the economy. And one of those shortages is electricity, which may not seem to a big issue, but it is a very, very serious issue. It has crippled their main industrial activity, and that is production, the cotton and the looms that Pakistan has, because it has a good cotton-based production capabilities, which has taken a severe beating in the last few years because there is just no electricity. And some of the estimates say that it will take 7 years to build the capacity for electricity generation in Pakistan, which is a very long time, because the effect of this on the production is so severe that the increasing losses, the increasing job cuts, the textile industry in Pakistan is very important for its exports. The exports have not shown a rise. Imports have been going up, and there are very other products that Pakistan can export. And therefore you have a situation where the foreign exchange reserves cannot be increased. Today it's roughly about $17 billion, $17.15 billion, which is not sufficient for 3 months of imports. So the Pakistan economy is in a serious crisis, with a large share of the resources being cornered by the military budget, on which we do not have much figures, but the military budget remains somewhere about $5 billion 5 billion Pakistani rupees, which is almost about 12% of the budget or something. Now, what this has done is that this has not only led to the increase of poverty. I mean, you people must be reading the increasing suicides that are happening, which is related to high levels of poverty, but also has allowed the religious militant groups or the jihadis to feed on this